Have you missed us? Because we've missed you. Welcome back to the Next Gen Racing YouTube channel. Yes, it feels like it's been an absolute age since we've been with you guys. But I'm here and Jack is back as well. Jack, it's York week. It's a massive preview. It's good that we're back for a preview like this. How are things now the last 2 weeks been?
Yeah, good fun. Thanks. Out in the US for a couple of weeks away from the racing bubble, I suppose. From the Saturday at Goodwood, so I didn't really miss too much there. But no, I'm really looking forward to York. I mean, the jump on, we only have 4 runners, but it should still be a cracker. And the Yorkshire Oaks is lining up to be a good one as well. So can't wait to get into it.
Yeah, really looking forward to this week. It's one of my favourite weeks of the year. And the last 2 weeks have been great as well. Goodwood was fantastic, although the weather was very fluctuating. And I also spent 3 days at Brighton. That was a really excellent 3 days as well. I'd advise anyone, if it is sunny, to get down to Brighton Racecourse. One of the best smaller racecourses I've been to in the country. So I would advise that. But let's get stuck into York then. We've got plenty of races to go through across the 4 days. Obviously, we don't have the full declarations out for the final few days, but we're still going to give the races a look at anyway. And we kick off with the 225 on Wednesday, which is the Tatterstall's Acomb Stakes, a Group 3 over 7 furlongs, coming to you at 225. And Ballymount Bay is the 9-4 favourite. Cogitate is 100-30. Edwardian is 4-1. Loose Cannon 13-2. Indian Run 8-1. And then we're looking at 10-1 about Hot Fuzz. Now, Jack, I will tell you that when previewing this race, I actually went back and saw what I backed at Goodwood, and I actually backed Ballymount Boy to win the Richmond that Van Dijk won at a big price, and you know how shrewd my dad can be, and he also backed the horse to win on the day at 25-1. Now, I actually think this horse would have had a massive chance having if it had run in the Vintage at Goodwood. I think it would have gone off a massive price and ran a massive race, but look at that run back against Van Dijk in the Richmond Stakes. I mean, this horse had obviously won at Hamilton prior to that, but it stayed on so well, like absolutely flew home. We know what Van Dijk's done in the pre-morning. Now, I think that's one of the best 2-year-old performances we've seen all year, to be totally honest. I know we've had City of Troy, but Van Dijk is right up there, let me tell you that. And I think Ballymount Boy, I mean, now purchased by Watam Racing, they seem to buy anything. They seem like Chelsea at the moment, buying anything that looks anything half decent. And Ballymount Boy certainly is that. Jason Hart's on board the horse, who I think is going to have an excellent week. Obviously, he's got Highfield Princess coming up in the Nunthorpe later in the week. But this horse is around 9-4 at the moment. I know you've got an unbeaten Charlie Hills runner here. I know you've got an Aidan O'Brien runner in here. But I've got a feeling that Ballymount Boy is the way to go with here. And 9-4 is not the worst price in the world. What about yourself, Jack?
It's an interesting little race, isn't it? I know they're very keen on Ballymount Boy's chances. I think Adrian Keeke said they'll be disappointed if he doesn't win. Step Up and Trip should definitely suit, as you say. He was staying on at the line, and I mean, as you say, Van Dijk's got him front that form. No ends in the morning last time out. He's definitely the one to beat in sheer form. I think his head carriage is a bit funny though. He didn't look like he properly kind of stuck his neck out towards the line. He didn't look like it was properly. The penny looked like it was dropping still, but I mean, he still looked a little bit inexperienced. I mean, so did Edwardian, I thought, last time out. Stepping up to a mile here, probably, 7 furlongs should probably suit related to Aspen Grove, who won over a mile and a quarter out in the US. Dan was placed on in the US in graded company as well on quick ground, so I don't think quick ground or the Step Up and Trip should be an issue for Edwardian whatsoever. I just thought Cogitate actually looked pretty classy on debut. He just looked like the classier individual. I thought he kind of stayed on at the line really nicely, lengthened away. He did look a little bit experienced, but hey, I mean, Ballymount Boy, I know the Step Up and Trip should suit, and likewise for Edwardian. But Cogitate is the only one who has won over 7 furlongs. He has been able to actually get his head in front over 7 furlongs. Edwardian's a touch slow away as well on his last 2 starts and looked slightly awkward, I thought, at the finish when he came down the near side last time out. So it will be Cogitate for me. I don't think he's the greatest price at around 10-3. I reckon hopefully he'll be able to drift around 7-2 on the day. But it'll be Cogitate for me in the first.
Cogitate for Jack in the Acomb Stakes, and I'll be with Ballymount Boy in the first race that we preview on this show. Let's move on to the 3 o'clock then, which is the Sky Bet Great Voltage Stakes. This is a Group 2 contest for the 3-year-olds over a mile and a half, and Gregory is back, the unbeaten Gregory, 11-8 favourite at the top of the market. Continuous is 5-2, Castle Way is 7-2, Artistic Star is 18-1, and Canberra Legend 25-1. What I would say, Jack, I'm hoping we don't get this as a running theme throughout the kind of week of declarations. It's a bit disappointing on day one, the amount we've had declared. Obviously, we'll get on to the judgment in a minute. We've only got 4 runners, but we've just previewed a race with 5 runners. We've got another race here with 5 runners. I mean, we've got some classy horses, don't get me wrong, but it is a little bit disappointing.
Yeah, it is a little bit disappointing. Look, it'd be nice to always have more runners, I suppose, when there's so much racing. I suppose the connections can kind of choose whether to dodge or whether to go to the likes of York and Goodwood. Ascot, I suppose, is a little bit different because I suppose it's held in high regard. Nonetheless, I still think this is a good race. I'm really, really keen to take on Gregory, though, that's for sure. Stepping back in trip, I thought both at Goodwood over mile 3 and the Cocktatten last time out at Ascot, I thought it really took a while to get going. He's a big old horse. I think he screams out for a mile and 6. Of course, you got the Gretchen side of the family. He was a half to Duncan. All that's over a mile and 6, 2 mile 2. I think the further he goes, the better he actually is. Continuous. I'm a massive fan of the Jockey Club form when he was back in 8th all the way down to Epictetus. That seems to be franked again and again and again. I just think he actually wants a little bit more cut in the ground. He's related to National Ballet, whose sole win came on yielding to soft ground. Sister to Maybe, who's a dam of Saxon Warrior. So I don't think his pedigree suggests so much exactly that he wants soft ground. But to me, I just thought he looks like he does want soft ground. When he was second to King of Steel last time out at Ascot, it looked like he was done for a little bit of speed more than anything in the ground. So for me, I think he'll probably want the ground. I actually think Canberra Legend is too big a price at 25-1, the outside of the field. Same connections as last year's winner, Deauville Legend, going the exact same route Deauville Legend did, coming from Goodwood. It's a half-brother to Youth Spirit, who was third in this behind Yabir in 2021. I think a mile and a half on quick ground will be right up his street, and I think 25-1 is probably too big a price in a race where you can pick holes in most of them.
Canberra Legend, with a name like that, I'm sure Australian plans could be on the horizon for that horse for James Ferguson. Currently 25-1 for the Great Vulture. I agree with Gregory. Now, I think I mentioned this when we came to our Goodwood preview, and I've been kind of saying this horse isn't as good as we all think he is, but I'm starting to think now that I've got this horse so wrong. I just think he's an absolute battler. Now, I know this is a drop back in trip, and like you say, Jack, I completely agree with what you said, but I could see Frankie Dettori just pinging this horse out in front, making it a great test and having them all off the bridle in behind. Now, I'm not going to be backing this horse, don't get me wrong, but I'm not going to be taking him on, I don't think, just due to the fact that I feel that could happen. If he were to go out at a decent gallop, I'd think they'll struggle to catch him. I think it'd be similar to how he rode a rest at the weekend in the Geoffrey Freer, to be totally honest. I think he could just like ping out in front and just watch them all come off the bridle one by one. You might get one or two sort of stay on, but I have a feeling he's just very classy, and even though this is a drop back in trip, I am going to be leaving the race alone, but we could see an unbeaten horse in Gregory go and do the business. Let's move on to the highlight of day one then, which is the Juddmonte International Stakes at 3:35. This is over a mile and a quarter. Well, we have 4 runners, and the one of my favourite horses at the moment, I think a lot of favourite horses, is Paddington at 8-13 currently. Mostadaf, the Prince of Wales' winner, is 5-2. Nashwa is 12-1, and the Foxes 18-1. Now, this is a question: do we take this on? And the answer is probably not, and it's probably a no bet race, but a spectacle to watch this one, Jack, just due to the fact that this horse here, Paddington, everyone is debating how good this horse is. He can only beat what is in front of him. Don't get me wrong. He might not have faced the toughest of opposition, but he's taken down Emily Upjohn in the Coral Eclipse. He's beaten Inspiral. I know Inspiral didn't like the ground in the Sussex Stakes, but beaten a horse like Factor Cheval, who's not a bad horse at all in the Sussex Stakes. When do we get to say this horse is a bit of a star? If he wins this, do we describe him as one of the better horses we've seen in the last 10 years?
Ooh, last 10 years, maybe pushing it slightly. I'd say he's already a star, though. To go from handicap company to where he is now in the space of time he has been absolutely sensational. He's very versatile. I mean, with regards to trip, ground. Look, I mean, it's perfect for the Coolmore and Ballydor boys to try and fill the boots of Galileo. I know he's probably not going to be able to do that personally, but look, I mean, I love how they're throwing him into the deep end, trying to get a CV looking as lustrous as it possibly can be before probably, I mean, I'd say 80% chance of sending him to stud at the end of the year. So fair play to him. Mostaf does have the turn of foot. It'll be interesting to see how the race pans out, but I just think Patterson has all bases covered. He has a turn of foot. He can stay. And he won't mind the ground at all. So even if they go off at a good clip, he'll be able to stay. If they don't, I think he'll probably have the turn of foot over Mostadaf. I know Mostadaf is a very, very worthy opponent. I mean, he showed that turn of foot again in the Prince of Wales, which we saw out in Meydan. Out in, I think it was Saudi Arabia in February. It was in the Neon Turf Cup, wherever it was. I completely
Saudi,
forgot now. And obviously Yeah, Saudi, and even the fourth behind Equinox wasn't the worst run in the world.
No.
I know on ratings he has a lot to prove, but I think the Foxes is probably the way I'll be going without Paddington. I know he's 16-1 with Paddington in the market, and he has a lot. As I say, he has plenty to final ratings over Mostaff. He's only been given £7. He's rated £15 inferior, but he should have won the Belmont Derby behind Far Bridge. He was fifth in the Derby. He was beaten 8 lengths by August Rodin, but you've seen the likes of Artistic Star run well in behind, coming out. Wipera, of course, won the Hampton Court. It's not a bad race, and of course he won over course and distance here in the Dante, beating White Birch. So look, I think he's only 3 from 8 in his career, but I mean, is he going to be able to bast it in Group 1 company with his elders? Maybe not, but hopefully he'll be able to snatch second. I think it will probably be a reasonable price without Paddington, so it'll be the Foxes without Paddington for me.
Yeah, I'd say, look, you might be sort of 5-6-1. You never know with regards to the price without Paddington in this market. It'll be interesting to see, and plenty of bookmakers will probably be offering that market as well. Look, I think Paddington is a superstar already. I do think that he could be one of the greats. Interesting to see how they campaign him after this, whether they go to the Irish Champion Stakes, whether they consider the Arc, who knows. They could even consider the Breeders' Cup Mile, but there are plenty of different things with regards to this, and Jack will probably discuss what happens with Paddington on next week's show and where we think he could go after the judgment. So it'd be interesting to hear your thoughts on that next week. I'm sticking with Paddington, by the way. That's legit. Like I mean, again, probably not.
What's coming there?
Nah, bro, you're going to see me tip up Nashua. No. I'm going to stick with Paddington. I just think he's top class. Let's move on then to the Thursday and the 150 there, which is the Sky Bet Lowther Stakes. It's the 6th furlong contest, another 2-year-old contest, but Relief Rally tops the market at 2-1. Cherry Blossom is 9-4. Flora of Bermuda is 4th. Then we get to double figures with Star of Mystery at 11-1. Beautiful Diamond and Pearls and Rubies 12s and 18s Bar. Nap time for me, this. I'm going to get it out early. I really love Flora of Bermuda, and everyone knows I like Flora of Bermuda, probably from a few previews that we've done. Our Royal Ascot preview, our Goodwood preview, and now our York preview. For all the festivals, I've been tipping this horse up. Now, I will reiterate the run at Beverley, where this horse finished second. This horse should have won, was very unlucky in running. That's where the horse caught my eye massively, and I thought the Queen Mary would have been ideal. They then went to Royal Ascot, and this is where I couldn't understand the price of this horse at Goodwood, but this horse won her side in the Queen Mary, and everything came up the stand side rail, and she was on the far side, but she won her side in impressive style. And then she went to Goodwood. Now, I thought she would have run in the Moulcombe, and I did tip her up for the Moulcombe, hoping she'd run there. She was around sort of a 14-16-1 shot for that. And they removed the horse from the race, and I thought, maybe they won't go to Goodwood. And they actually put it in a fillies conditions race, where the horse was still around 5-1 opening show. And I thought it was a ludicrous price. It was one of my best bets of Goodwood during the week at around 5-1. But if you look and compare the time of the Moulcombe to that fillies conditions race, there was 0.1 of a second between them. The fillies condition race was a 0.1 of a second slower than the Moulcombe itself, and the Moulcombe was won by Big Evs, who's obviously around a 5-6-1 shot for the Nunthorpe now. Now, what price would this horse have been with an allowance as a filly in a race like that? I don't know, but I think this horse could be pretty classy. I know this horse won on soft ground, but I don't think good ground is anything of a bad sign for this horse. And 4-1, I still think is a very good price about this. Relief Rally obviously won the handicap. Where was that? That was at Newbury, was it? Yeah, Newbury, which was a race where, depending on your price, you get your weight allowance. And it's a bit of an interesting race, and a race that I don't actually like to judge form on. Did win that impressive style, and I know ran a good second, obviously, in the Queen Mary Stakes. So it's an interesting race, but I do think I'd have to take on Relief Rally, just due to the fact that if you compare the sides, and Flora Bermuda being on the same side as Relief Rally, I think Flora Bermuda would have beaten Relief Rally in that Queen Mary. So I'm going to take the 4-1, take on the Aidan O'Brien horse. Whether that turns up Cherry Blossom, I don't know, but I think 4-1 about Flora Bermuda. I think that's a decent price, and a decent price to be a nap. Jack, who are you going to be with?
Sam, talking about times, the years and years of time propaganda's rubbing off on you, Sam. You're talking about times. That makes me happy. That makes me seriously happy. I actually really think this is a good race, you know.
It is.
You can make a case for a few of them. I've really liked the case of Flora Bermuda. You got a spot on. I think she would have gone very close in the Moulcombe with an allowance. Relief Rally looked very classy in the Super Sprint. But there's two. One definitely that I think, Star of Mystery. I know Charlie Appleby and Godolphin have been struggling in these big festivals, but I think she's a humongous price at 12-1. Look, she went on 6-1 on for a Group 2 last time out. Yes, there was only 4 runners, and yes, she got turned over, but her 2 previous ones, she won by a cumulative 15 lengths. And before last time out, she could have been a world beater. She beat Royal Elysian, who's rated 80 by 11 lengths, and Cry Fiction by a respectable 4 lengths, who's rated 88. And look, she looked pretty awkward at Newmarket. The rain came down. That wouldn't have suited her, I don't think. She's a half sister to Althea and Mysterious Night, who both won out in the US and Canada, respectively, on quick ground. If you look at Kodiak as well, her sire, let's not forget he was a non-runner on soft ground, on good to soft ground, I think 4 times. I think back on a quicker surface, she could have a chance. She's 12-1. I think that's just a massive price. If she got her head in front, even if she scrambled home that day, I think she'd be about 4-5-1. 12-1, I think, is a humongous price. I happily take 12-1 about the Godolphin lot who are out of form at the moment. The other one's Beautiful Diamond, who hasn't been seen since third in that Queen Mary. Down the near side, was staying on well that day. She's around the 8-1 mark as well. So I would happily take an each-way bet on Star of Mystery and a win bet on Beautiful Diamond ahead of the front 3 in the market. I really like the Flora Bermuda case. Relief Rally is the one to beat, but I do think Star of Mystery is a huge price at 12-1.
Yeah, both taking on Relief Rally at the top of the market. I think it's a wise decision as well. We might come to regret that, but I do think the Flora Bermuda is a good bet. And Jack, Beautiful Diamond and Star of Mystery. Can the Godolphin team get back to form? We'll wait and see in a couple of days' time. Let's move on to the highlight on day 2 then, which is the Yorkshire Oaks. It's probably one of the races of the week at the moment. Obviously waiting for full declarations. It's a Group 1 contest over a mile and a half at 3:35 on Thursday, where Save the Last Dance tops the market at 9-4, Blue Stocking 7-2, Free Wind is 9-2. The money's coming for this horse, I'm not sure why. Al Hussein is 6-1, Ross Carberry is 10-1, 16-1 bar these. Now, we were talking off air, and I think we're both in agreement that if the ground does stay quick, then Save the Last Dance is not a good bet at 9-4 whatsoever. Should we start off by discussing the Irish Oaks form? Because you've obviously got Blue Stocking in here as well, who I actually think is probably the more likely winner of the two. Rafe Beckett is in flying form. Ross Orion obviously in flying form as well, riding for the stable. But I don't think 7-2 is the worst price. I have got one at a price, Jack, and I'm hoping that you don't put it up as well, but I'll let you go first.
Mine actually comes from the Yorkshire Oaks, and I think Warm Heart is an absolutely cracking price at 16-1 if she goes. She's not a definite to go, but she won the Ribblesdale quick ground, absolutely no show in the Irish Oaks last time out, and I just think she's a huge price. I mean, you can definitely forgive her run in the Irish Oaks. I know it seems like a relatively quick turnaround after she went to Newbury and then a month off straight to Ascot, won well there, and then was turned over at the Cara. But Blue Stocking is, what price is Blue Stocking? 7-2. Warm Heart 16-1. I just don't understand it. Save the Last Dance, I think you have to oppose on the ground. The other one for me is Novakai, who was of course second in the Musadora on seasonal reappearance, no show in the Dian, and then bounced back when stepped up to a mile and a half, and I can tell that's who you're going to put up. But it was actually the only time I'd left her when she went off at 5-2 last time out and went and absolutely dotted up. But I think she definitely appreciated the step up to a mile and a half. I thought the run in the Musadora was a very good run on seasonal reappearance, and again she's 16-1, so there'd be the two ways I'll be looking, especially anti-post. I mean, I happily take them both anti-post, and if one's a non-runner, I think they're both going to half in price when you look at someone who could be removed from the race. So it'd be Warm Heart and Novakai, who I think are a massive price, respectively at 16-1.
Yeah, you've just made me think I might actually have to back these horses now, because the decks will come out soon and the prices will probably all come down. So I'll be doing that probably during the preview. But I really like the case for Warm Heart. But the one that I really like is Novakai. I cannot believe this horse is 16-1 for the Carl Burke stable, who do so well at this festival. Now, we can go for every run here, but the run at York, second behind Soul Sister in the Musadora Stakes. Now, the horse stayed on really well. That was over a mile and 2. Then went to the Prix de Diane that obviously Jack mentioned there, and Jack actually put the horse up at around 25-1 for that race, maybe even bigger. And the horse was just, like Jack says, a no-show, but that was on good soft ground. Then returned to good ground over a mile and a half. Well, we saw this horse performed to a really decent level. Now, it was only a listed race. It might not be the best race in the world, but won by, 4 and a bit lengths. And I think that was a really impressive display at Newmarket. And I don't know, but if a lot come out of here, I think 16-1 with Buick on board is massive. about this horse. I think Blue Stocking is the one to beat. I do not understand the free win angle at all, if anyone's got that. I mean, I might be proved wrong, just the Frankie factor here in a Group 1 like this, but I thought the horse was very disappointing at Goodwood. I know you can make excuses with the ground at Goodwood, but hasn't really been the same horse this season, and I wouldn't be having that horse at 9-2. So I'll be having a win bet on Blue Stocking for me and Nova Kai each way. I think it's a cracking price at 16 to 1. And yeah, while I move on to the next race, I'll be looking for the market for the Yorkshire Oaks by the sound of things. Let's move on to the Friday then and start off with the 225, which is the Lonsdale Cup Stakes, over just over 2 miles. And at the moment, Coltrane tops the market of 3 to 1, Courage Mon Ami and Quick Fawn 7 to 2, Elder Off is 8 to 1, along with Giavelletto 10 to 1 about Broome, and 16s bar these. Oh, Quick Fawn. Easy lead at Goodwood, won a Goodwood Cup. Possibly not, well, actually, just I can say this, he's a lovely horse, but he was not a good Goodwood Cup winner, in my opinion. An impressive display, don't get me wrong, but I don't think he was a good Goodwood Cup winner. I don't think it was the strongest Goodwood Cup we've had. You'd rather have seen a horse like Courage Mon Ami go and win a race like that, but if he gets an easy lead, he's going to be tough to beat. But I do think Coltrane's the way to side here. I don't think Oisin Murphy will make the same mistake. I think he's probably going to be a lot closer to the pace. I mean, whether if you went off with quick form, whether you'd burn yourself out and end up kind of dropping back through the field, I don't know. But I think you've got to sit a lot closer to him, because they were slowly coming back to him at Goodwood, not quick enough. But I do think that Coltrane, he's a very likeable horse. I think he's a proper stylish horse over 2 miles. I can imagine that they've got the long distance cup on Champions Day in the back of their mind. That's probably the target again for this horse, where he ran so well last year. So I think Coltrane 3 to 1. I'm probably guessing, Jack, you might give a mention for Elder Off here, who you put up for the Goodwood Cup, who I think they were very impressed, actually, the very yard. They did say after they were very impressed with the way he ran in that, and maybe he could take another step forward. But I'll be with Coltrane at 3 to 1, but it wouldn't be a massive selection for me. What about yourself?
Yeah, I actually think it's a cracking race. I know a lot of people, if they all stand their ground, I think this is looking like an absolutely brilliant affair. Quick Thorn, the same price as Courage Mon Ami. I know I would be taking in a match bet there, and it would be Courage Mon Ami back on quicker ground, that's for sure. I couldn't have Courage Mon Ami, as you knew, for the Goodwood Cup, but I think back on quicker ground over 2 miles, I think he's got to have a chance here. I think 7 to 2 is actually not the worst price in the world. Coltrane's very consistent. I mean, no matter if it's over 2 miles, 2 miles, 4, it's on, like, he's a very, very likeable horse. He gives his all time and time again. I just think it seems like he's always comes up against one who the conditions suit a little bit more on the day, the same as in the Gold Cup and the Goodwood Cup. I think the same will be here. I think Courage Mon Ami is the one to beat, but I have to give Giavelletto another mention. I mean, he's half the price he was in the Goodwood Cup, but look, he went and won the Yorkshire Cup, beating Elder over a mile 6 last time out. And I've talked about Andrea Azzini in these staying races. I mean, he came from the back of the field last time out. I don't actually think he really liked the ground too much. He kind of came there and looked like he was going to be staying on to third, then weakened the last furlong or so. Andrea Azzini's back on board, of course, grabbed a Group 1 in the morning at the weekend, and I think he could have a massive chance here. He's a course winner, Giavelletto, 2 miles, quick round, right up the street, still an improving 4-year-old. He's overlooked yet again. You get a double figure price about him, and I think Giavelletto has a massive chance to win the Lonsdale Cup.
Yeah, Giavelletto, he won well in the Yorkshire Cup earlier on in the season, and look at Andrea Azzini's riding out of his skin before he heads out to Hong Kong in a couple of months' time. But I think that, yeah, I can see the case, Jack. I think he's a very, very good horse, and I think he might be the each-way play in the race. But it's a race where I'm going to side with Coltrane. I just think he might be too good in the race, and he is very classy and usually very consistent. So Coltrane for me and Giavelletto for Jack. Let's move on to the Gimcrack Stakes, which is the 3 o'clock there on the Friday. 6 furlong contest where Killian tops the market at 15 to 8. Johannes Brahms is 4 to 1. Hartem is 7 to 1. Bahir is 10 to 1. King's Gamble is 10 to 1. 12 to 1 bar these. Just to let you know that markets, as I went to go and put a bet on Nova Kai, markets were taken down. So I have missed the 16 to 1. I have to admit that. So I don't think the horse will be 16 to 1 when the full decks come out, but we'll wait and see. I have not got a strong opinion in this race at all, Jack. I think the only thing that I can say is I think Killian's taken a long time to get going as a 2-year-old. It's taken a while for him to click. I think the return to quicker ground is going to be ideal for him. I thought Hartem was very good at Goodwood. I'm surprised they're dropping back in trip with this horse. I thought he looked very good over 7, so maybe it'll pay off. Maybe there'll be a strong pace and it'll suit Hartem. But it's a race I'm going to be leaving alone, so I'll let you pick out the winner for us.
Oh, well, you know where I'm going to go, don't you? But he's going to get some justice here in the Jim Crack. He's a double-figure price. He's 10-1. Goodness me, he travelled an absolute dream in the Malcolm, but just hated the ground. He looked like the winner that day, in my opinion. But look, just hated the ground, and Killian's there at 6-4, 15-8. But here's there at 10-1. It's an absolute no-brainer for me. I know he was beaten 3 lengths on the day, but he just didn't like the ground whatsoever. Hartem, I can't really see the drop back and trip. I'd be very surprised if he is declared, although he's already jocked up. Johannes Brandt, second to Big Evs, was beaten in 3 lengths in the Windsor Castle, could definitely take a step forward, won't mind the ground whatsoever. 4-1 as well. I don't think it's a ridiculously bad price. And then you got the likes of King's Gamble in there for Clipper Logistics, who was pretty impressive on debut for Roche Beckett and Danny Tardhope. But look, I think Bahir looks like he's a classy individual on his day. I think he's got conditions in his favour now. Stepping up to 6 shouldn't be too much of a problem. And I think Bahir at a double figure price is definitely the way I'll be going in the Jim Crack.
Yeah, but here 10-1 currently a decent each way bet, and it will be interesting to see whether they do declare Hartem for this race. I know, like you say, jocked up, but I'll be intrigued to know the thinking behind it. But who knows? It might be a decision that pays off for the Richard Hannon yard. But they do have Bahir in there as well, and like Jack says, 10-1 is far too big a price. Let's move on to the highlights on the Friday, which is the 3:35, which is the Coolmore Wootton Bassett Nunthorpe Stakes over 5 furlongs, Group 1 contest. This is a proper burn up, and Highfield Princess, she turns up here 13-8. Favourite Bradsell, the King's Stand wins 4-1. Big Evs is 7-1 dramatised, and Regional are 10-1, and then 14-1 bar these. Now, watching Highfield Princess at Goodwood win the King George Qatar Stakes was phenomenal. She was so impressive. It was great to see her turn up to a meeting like Glorious Goodwood and do what she did in impressive style. But I'm going to try and take her on. I think there's definitely a few each way angles in here. I get what a lot of people saying about what Twilight calls a return to good ground, and the track at York should suit a horse like Twilight calls. But I like Regional massively here as an each way price. Course and distance winner actually won. I think it was a listed it was a handicap at York, and then went on in a listed contest to win against a horse called Equilateral, who might not be the best yardstick in the world, but I do think this horse is taking massive step forward. You look at his RPRs from the back end of last season. He put up an RPR of 102, then 111, then 117. He just seems to be getting quicker and quicker. He absolutely loves York. I have a feeling that this has been a massive plan. There was a race in mind for this horse a few weeks back, and they didn't run, I think, due to the soft ground. So if it were to come up quick, then it's definitely going to suit this horse. 10-1 is far too big a price. And I know this horse is a 5-year-old, and you've got 3-year-olds and even 2-year-olds in this race, but I do think this horse is going to run a huge race at 10-1 for the Ebor Bethel stable. So yeah, I'm going to take Regional each way, Jack, here. I do think Big Evs is fascinating in here as a 2-year-old. Obviously gets so much weight, and Azzini takes the ride, but didn't pay off with the Platinum Queen last year. Could it pay off this year?
Yeah, it's another cracking race. It could pay off. I can never really fancy the 2-year-olds stepping up against their elders. I think it's very tough for 3-year-olds doing it. Yeah. So for 2-year-olds to do it, I think it'd be absolutely fantastic. Look, he's been given, nearly £20, maybe even more by most things in the field here. I actually think this is probably one of the best sprints of the year, though. I think it's been a very muddling division, but I think this is probably the most exciting one we have. Highfield Princess, look, she's almost becoming cult hero-like status, isn't she? She's an absolutely lovable rogue, I think. She gives her all. I know she gets into her own by this point in August, but a 13-8, you have to pick holes in her, don't you? You have to try to, or not even pick holes in her, but just oppose her. I think Bradsell's probably the one to beat, in my opinion, after that win in the King's Stand on quick ground. I think you can make a case for most things in there. Twilight Calls is one who I've fallen for time and time again. But I do think there's one at a massive price here who I actually think could even be my nap of the week at 33-1, and it's the 4-year-old filly, Ladies Church. And I think there's just two things which are key to her. It's 5 furlongs and quick ground. If you look at her form on 5 furlongs and quick ground, I mean, on the second run at Tipperary, she won, then won again at Naas. Was then second to Geocentric at Dundalk on the all-weather, second to Sacred Bridge at Court, beaten 2 lengths in the Palace of Holyrood House, then won a Group 2 beating Manista, then was second in a Group 2 out in Maidan, and then hacked up at Naas, beating Moss Tucker by 3 lengths on seasonal reappearance this year, which was by far, I think, a career best for her. Since then, on soft ground at the Curran in Group 2, gave no account whatsoever, beaten 4 lengths, and I think you have to put a line through a run at Goodwood, which was definitely below par, even though the ground wasn't horrendous. But look, I think 5 furlongs on quick ground, I think she actually is an absolutely cracking prize. I think that is an absolute key to her. She's completely overlooked. She's had excuses the last twice. And even if Ben Cohen's going to be on, I know Ryan Moore was on out in the Curragh. But look, I think if she does get declared, I can't see her going off 33-1. And if she does, I think she's an absolutely cracking prize for the Nunthorpe.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. 33-1 currently for the Johnny Murtyard, who are very shrewd. So if money were to come for that horse as well, you'd be taking that, I'm sure. Let's go on to the Saturday then, the 3 o'clock, which is the City of York Stakes over 7 furlongs, a Group 2 contest where Kinross tops the market 13-8, Sacred 5-1, Isaac Shelby is 13-2, Alsa Hale and Mutasabek are 8-1, and then 14-1 bar these. Kinross and Isaac Shelby went to battle at Goodwood in the Lennox. At one stage I thought Isaac Shelby had the better of Kinross, but Kinross actually, when you go back and watched it, did this fairly comfortably under Frankie Dettori, and I've got a feeling this could be Frankie's York bow out on Saturday, and I have a feeling this could also be Frankie's last big bow out of the season in the Champion Sprint Stakes on Champions Day. I think this has all been lined up, and I have mentioned this before, but I think this could be Frankie's big last winner in a Group 1. So yeah, I've looked at this race multiple times. I think Kinross is the one to beat. I don't think soft ground, I think I mentioned this before as well, I don't think soft ground is as key to this horse as everyone thinks. I think this horse can win on quicker going. I don't know if he'd want it too quick, but I don't think it's a massive hindrance to this horse. I know Sacred skipped the Hungerford at the weekend to come here, but I will narrowly side with Kinross over Isaac Shelby, I think, in this race here, but it wouldn't be a massive bet for me, Jack. What about yourself?
This makes me laugh, because I made 2 promises to you last year about 2 horses that I would never back ever again, and it was a year ago after York, and one of them's here in Sacred.
Yes.
And if she goes and wins, I'm really, really happy. But it would hurt a lot.
Yeah, you're not allowed to put her up, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not allowed to. I wouldn't do anyway, because I think there's probably a little bit of value elsewhere there. I think there's probably a little bit of recency bias as well in the market when you look at Isaac Shelby and Kinross battling it out in the Lennox, and of course Sacred's in there as well. Mutasabek has Ryan Moore booked up. Look, over 7 furlongs, he can be absolutely devastating on his day. We saw what he did on seasonal reappearance at Newmarket when he absolutely blazed a trail for Native Trail, who was back in second that day, and of course was 5th as well in the lock-in. So look, I mean, he gave no account whatsoever in the Queen Anne, but look, with Ryan Moore back on board, Jim Crowley banned, he's 8-1, which I don't think is the worst price in the world. I'm going to be backing 2 in this. One's Alsa Hale, 7 furlongs on quick ground. I know he's a 7-year-old, he has to give away to the young'uns, I suppose you could say. But look, he was non-run in the Lennox on the ground. He was 6th in the Queen Elizabeth II Jubilee, beaten 5 lengths by Carden, was staying on at the line there, was 3rd in the Alquoz Sprint, absolutely blazed a trail over 7 furlongs on quick ground in Maidan in the conditions race when Santanato was back in the second, and did the exact same when beating Alfarique. I thought he looked like a completely different horse back in January and March in Maidan. He still, I think, retains that ability, even at the age of 6, and I do think around 8-1 is not a bad each way price. And the other one's the other Cheveley Park runner, Audience, who's finally going left-handed again. Hangs left. It's only a tendency he's picked up recently. But look, I didn't give him a squeak in the Lennox. He was only beaten 4.5 lengths in ground, which I thought was completely against him and going the wrong way round. If you saw how he won at Newmarket on his penultimate run when he beat Jumbie by 2 lengths, he must have given away 3 by hanging as left as he did. I just think he's very, very progressive. As soon as he's been gelded, he started to hang left, but he sent him on leaps and bounds. He beat Auditor by 4 3/4 lengths. Auditor's a pretty decent horse in his own right for Martin and Freddie Mead. So I do think that Audience does have a big chance. He's 25-1. And look, I mean, he's not got the luxurious and aesthetically pleasing page that the likes of Sacred, Kim Ross, or Isaac Shelby have. But look, he's a huge prize. So for me, I'll be taking Al Sahel and Audience at 8-1 and 25-1 respectively.
Al Sahel and Audience for Jack. Yeah, Audience is a great each way angle in this. I mean, this horse, if hitting the front and again getting horse off the bridle in behind, can be very tough to beat. And 25 is under Rab Havlin, currently jocked up on the horse. Maybe far too big. Move on to the feature of the whole week, really. I mean, the race, the festival's named after this race. It's the Ebor Handicap at 3:35 on Saturday. 1 mile, 6 furlongs, where Sweet William is going to get a run. 4-1. Currently Absurd for the Willie Mullins yard is 8-1. Real Dream also 8-1. Live Your Dream is 10-1. Jack Finn Bar is 14-1. Adjuvant is 16-1. Chillingham is 16-1. Scampy and Scriptwriter also 16-1 and 20-1. Bar these. Now, I said that I only have one in the race, but I probably won't be backing it. And this, for me, is a horse who I think could turn out to be a proper decent cup horse next season. And I do think that he is the star of the field. And it is boring, but I think Sweet William could end up to be very, very good. He's only rated 99. He's only gone up a few pounds from that win at Goodwood, which was on heavy ground, but you can look at this horse's form. He seems to have won on everything in his career, from good to firm to heavy. So there is no concerns whatever the ground turns up. Actually, if the ground was quicker, I think his best performance so far has come on quicker ground. But he's currently 4-1. He's not a great price for an Ebor. Do not get me wrong. I'm not saying this is an excellent price, but I do think he's just the classy horse in here. I do think he could turn out to be a cup horse next season. There would be no surprise if he were to make a step into group company next season. He is a 4-year-old, but we know what these cup horses can do. As they get older, they can get better. And yeah, Sweet William. Rab Havlin is jocked up once again. He gets along with the horse so well. So yeah, Jack, I mean, obviously with the declarations, we haven't got the full declaration for this race. We haven't got the full draw either, so it's not as easy to go through this. But I don't really want to be taking a horse on like Sweet William. I hope he does go and win. I hope he does prove that he could be a star for next season. What about yourself?
I think he'll go off shorter than 4-1. I can see him going off 5-2.
Okay.
I agree with you. I think he's actually that good. I do think he's probably a 115 horse in the future, and he was running off 99. He's £4 well in. I mean, he handled heavy ground last time out over 1 mile and 6. He's handled decent ground at Newbury over 2 miles and 1.5 miles on quick ground at Doncaster. So I think he absolutely oozes class. I think at 4-1, look, you can pick holes in him because he's quite a short price and it's an Ebor, but I pretty much see him going off 3-1 and being bang there at the finish. If he gets beaten by one who's well handicapped, so be it. I think he's not the worst price in the world at 4-1 as well. I know it's the Ebor, so you sound a bit stupid saying that, but I really do see him kind of probably going off 5-2 and making this field look like a bunch of handicappers. I know, of course, it is a handicap. The only other one, though, I'm not sure if he's going to go here or 1.5 mile handicap at York. I'm a huge fan of Real Dream. Ever since his win at Kempton, I thought he made it look like he had to battle down, but he beat good old Protected Guest by a length. But I think he was worth more than a length on the day. So since he's been gelded and had a wind up and had a long break, I think he's a different horse this year. He managed to finish third at York over 1.5 miles. He was only beaten a length by Scampy. He was joining the car park that day. So I've no clue how he's managed to finish third that day. And then obviously hacked up at Ascot at a shade of odds on last time out pretty comfortably. So I do think that Real Dream's a very, very, very good horse. Is he going to bump into one in Sweet William if he comes here? I think so. If they send him to the 1.5 mile handicap, I think he'll win that with ease. So be interesting to see where Real Dream goes, because I think him and Sweet William could serve up to each other at the finish. But I completely agree with you. Sweet William is the one to beat.
Yeah, Sweet William, he could just be a proper nice horse for next year. Looking for, I mean, he's a nice horse this year, but he could be a really good horse next year. He really could. And looking forward to seeing how good he could be on Saturday. But like Jack says, Real Dream, definitely a horse to follow, whether that be in the Ebor or in another race this season. Certainly worth keeping an eye on, maybe having in your tracker Real Dream for the remainder of this flat season. And that's it. That's the races that we're going to be covering on this week's show. It is time to get a best bet, and I'll kick things off, and I will go with Flora of Bermuda in the Lauver. I've mentioned it already, which comes on Thursday. I think the time's at 1:50. Yeah, 1:50 on Thursday. That'll be the one for me. Flora of Bermuda around 4-1. That is my nap for the week. Jack, for yourself?
for myself, I've got a couple of handicap picks as well on the
Wednesday. Go on, go for them
as
well.
In the 150, Mondam Edge, 5 furlong quick round at York. I think he usually runs a big race in these big handicaps. He was beaten 4 lengths on this in this last year, off £9 higher. He's 16 to 1. I think he'll go well again. And Designer won this race last year off £5 lower by 2.5 lengths. Got no run whatsoever at Goodwood's, £5 lower than when 4th at Bath and Listed Company. I think he's got to be well handicapped. He's around 9 to 2 in the 4:45 on Wednesday. And the nap of the week's going to be Ladies Church in the Nunthorpe at 33 to 1. I think she's going to absolutely blaze a trail for them. Hopefully, Goodwood hasn't left too much of a mark on her, and Johnny Murtagh can bag a big Group 1 winner.
Ladies Church, 33 to 1 for the Nunthorpe Jacks nap, and it's not a preview of York. It's actually just not a festival preview in general, unless you put Mondamage up for a handicap somewhere. I'm sure Paul Keeley would be more than happy with that selection there. I wonder if he's going to be putting that horse up. Actually, we'll probably find out later this evening on In the Know. So looking forward to that. So that's it for this week's show. We'll be back again next weekend. We'll be back consistently. We've had a couple of weeks break. Jack having a nice holiday and me a few weeks of racing. So it's been quite nice to have a little break. But we will be back again next weekend. We'll have a quick review of York and then we'll be previewing the action for the weekend ahead. So until then, like, subscribe, share, comment as always, and we will see you soon.